This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
The law of attraction states that everything is energy and that like attracts like. True spirituality states that the only true reality is that of oneness, unity, and unconditional love and forgiveness. Together, these two are attached at the hip and perform a beautiful symbiotic dance together. Hi, I'm Carl Gruber, author of the brand new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, Beautiful Symbiotic Relationship. This is a book that will show you how to build a rock-solid personal foundation based on unchanging, eternal, universal truth that shows you how to become a consistent co-creator with the universe to create the life you love to live and live to love. Get your copy today of my new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, a beautiful symbiotic relationship, and learn how to manifest the life you truly desire to be living. Now available as an ebook or paperback on Amazon.
Hey, this is the podcast World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment. Hi and welcome. I'm your host, Carl Gruber. For over 4 years now, this show maintains its quest to discover and dive deeply into all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening. We've had some of the world's top experts in these fields on the show, like Dr. Joe Vitale, one of the world's top experts on the law of attraction. Spiritual teachers such as Gary Renard, David Hoffmeister, John Mundy, Kieran J. Gardner, and Jennifer Hadley. We've included some amazing scientists who investigate quantum consciousness and spirituality, like young Australian Brendan D. Murphy, author of the amazing book, The Grand Illusion, a synthesis of science and spirituality. And most recently, twice nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, 90-year-old Dr. Ervin Laszlo was on the show. We've explored the metaphysical realm with shaman Carrie Hummingbird, and channels bring forth ascended masters and galactic beings. One of my most popular shows ever is Jacques Purcell, who has channeled a master, ascended master called Lazarus for over 40 years. So to put it mildly, you won't be bored when you listen to this show, and hopefully your heart and mind will open and blossom with a new understanding. Also, please check out my brand new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, a beautiful symbiotic relationship, now available as an ebook or paperback on Amazon. So every once in a while, I like to bring back on my show one of my guests where just one show is not enough to grasp and appreciate the entirety of their talents. And today is one of those shows as we welcome back Dr. Susan Corso. She has been a spiritual counselor for over 40 years and is an expert on managing human energy systems through work with the chakras. She's also written more than 30 books, both fiction and nonfiction, including her classic God's Dictionary, plus the 8-volume series called Energy Integrity. She is also the founder of IAmpersand, a spiritual community dedicated to creating a world that works for everyone. And now she has an exciting new project that we will explore with her, Chakras, Correspondence Compendium. It's more than 350 pages of chakra wisdom that she has gathered over more than 40 years of professional work. So let's dive right in and find out all about this project and all of her other work. So welcome back, Susan. It's exciting to have you back on the show so we can continue to explore in more depth and the incredible and beneficial work
Thank you very much for inviting me, Carl.
No. Oh, awesome. It's so good to have you back on. I really, really appreciate it. And we mentioned this earlier before we started talking, it's hard to believe that you were on this show 6 months ago in episode number 70, and you just have so much to share. And when I found out about your new project, I said, we have got to get Susan back on. But, I know you're anxious to let people know about your new project, but let's take a couple moments to let people know a bit more about your work with the energy system and your writing and more.
Well, I was the head of energy and spiritual medicine in a big medical center in Boston. I worked with 20 doctors, and essentially those 20 doctors referred me the patients that they helped to a degree, but not get to healing, not to mention curing. And I believe that healing, which is different than curing, healing comes before curing and must come before curing. And people were getting well with Western medicine, but their symptoms were abating, but they weren't healing. They weren't finishing with their diseases. So invariably, when the doctors would send me someone, I ended up finding or connecting to their energy system, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the life force or the divine spark or chi or ki or prana or mana or, herald, whatever you want to call it. But there is something that makes your circulatory system want to circulate besides just your heart, right? Your heart's a pump, yes, but something makes it want to pump. What is the spark? What's the electricity that makes that heart pump? What makes your lungs inhale when you exhale? Well, it's the divine spark. And the chakra system is that divine spark, which is a pure burst of white light seen through a prism. So the chakras are centers of energy, spheres of energy that most people view them as sort of like hockey pucks attached to a ribbon against the spine. That's not what the chakras are. The chakras are living, breathing, dynamic, energetic spheres in different colors. Red starts at the bottom of the spine. It goes all the way up to the top of your head to violet. Those are the interior major chakras. And I work with one exterior chakra, the rose thymus gland chakra, which is right in front of your sternum, which is about spiritual, emotional, and psychological immunity. So invariably, I would end up finding that a person who came to see me was getting well, but what was in their way was a psychological, an emotional, or a spiritual problem. Doctors, Western doctors, when they go to medical school, they study 11 systems. Well, anyone who knows anything about mysticism and numbers knows that the proper number there is 12. Right? The 12th system is the energy system, but you can't monetize it. You can't measure it. There are no insurance codes for the chakras. So Western medicine just ignores it because you can't measure it. Energy, and the reason you can't measure it is because energy is always in motion. Energy is always changing. When someone takes an x-ray of a bone, that bone, sure, is growing and healing and doing all the things that bones do, but it's principally the bone, right? A femur is a femur. It's not going to turn into an ulna. It's just not, right? But energetically, when you have, let's say, a broken heart, right? Emotionally, a broken heart. Your third chakra, which is in your solar plexus, is working really hard to support that emotion and care for it, right? And your fifth chakra is compensating for it by being soothing and sympathetic and caring for your fourth chakra, your personal heart, if your heart is broken. So what happens is when people ignore, and really, this is so interesting. Barbara Brennan, the healer who created Hands of Light many, many years ago, she was a NASA scientist and suddenly started hearing a voice and was like, whoa, what is happening here? Wait a minute. NASA scientists don't hear voices. What are you talking about? Right? So Her thesis is any place or time at any level of your life or your being that you feel discomfort, that's a message. Every time you ignore being feeling uncomfortable, you're ignoring a message from your spirit. You're ignoring a message from your well-being. You're ignoring, and you know what? We are taught, oh my gosh, we are taught to override those discomforts like that. I mean, it's almost so automatic, it's unbelievable. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Well, where's the truth in that? Right? I mean, that was one of my mother's favorite ones. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Well, all right, but then how do you tell the truth? How do you speak truth to power? How do you tell the truth to yourself in the bathroom mirror if you're only allowed to say nice things, right? When in point of fact, some of the function of your fifth chakra is to be able to say no, and how that shows up emotionally is in human anger, right? Human anger is just no. No, you have transgressed my boundaries. No. And it doesn't have to be big drama or a movie about it. It's just, that's how that is. So eventually I began to understand that there was a logic to the human energy system, and people kept getting well. I mean, really well, like quantum leap well. And I'm not taking credit for that, because really it's about the work that someone does inside themselves. So if you had a big realization in a session with me, Carl, for example, and then you went home and just ignored it, it wouldn't help you get better. The understanding doesn't help you get better. What helps you get better is change. Oh. Ow, right? Because we're scared of change. Yeah. We don't like it when things change. I want them just to be the same. I want them to go back the way they used to be. Really? Because you can't even go back to the way you used to be 30 seconds ago. Not possible. You are changing all the time. The world is changing all the time. Change, in fact, is the only constant that you can count on. But we live as though things aren't supposed to change. Or worse, that we're supposed to be in control of absolutely everything outside us. You know, people say, God gave us a dominion. Yeah, God gave you dominion. I'm here to tell you, I read that book. And in that book, it says that God gave you dominion between your own ears. Mm-hmm. That is the beginning and the end of the territory of your dominion. Right? You don't get dominion over anything else. Mm-hmm. Not the cat, not the weather, not the IRS, not the government, not your best friend. But we have this whole control game going on here on the planet, instead of celebrating how each one of us, and this is why my chakra workbooks are called the energy integrity workbooks. My thesis is this: you unto yourself are an integrity, not an integrity in the sense of a moral superhero wearing a cape. I don't mean integrity in the business sense, how it's been limited into this box of morality and ethics. That's not what integrity is. The word integrity comes from the same word as our word integer. It means wholeness. An integer is a whole number.
I like that.
Well, you think about this, Carl. I mean, this is really serious, because most of us approach life as we are a problem. We are flawed. We are broken. We are damaged. We are irreparable, right? It is how humanity, particularly in the West, has taken the great wisdom of psychology and simplified it to a terrifying degree and applied it to ourselves. Well, can't you just give me something to fix it? I go, yeah, consciousness. You are aware of the fact that you are selling yourself down the river all the time by saying yes when you mean no. Okay, guess what the solution is? Change. You start to learn to say no, but don't do it, right, when there's someone in front of you with an AK-57. Here's what you do. You say no, thank you, to the person who offers you another cookie where the stakes are low.
Oh, now you tell me. I took that other cookie.
Well, but the point is, you get to say yes or no.
Right.
Based on, but if you know that one of your patterns has been, and be a person, socialized female from the 1950s until the 1970s, you learned to say yes when you meant no, right? A lot of women who were born and raised during the time I was raised, and you think about this, I'm 65, right? What did I see on television for the first 7 years of my life? I saw Father Knowing Best. I saw Mrs. Cleaver wearing a dress that was ironed every single time she wore it. Every different dress was ironed, and I never saw an iron.
Uh-huh.
Right? I saw white boys and girls being good all the time, or being bad and suffering the consequences, right? So what did I learn about what it is to be a woman? What did I learn about what it is to be a person, right? So you have to start to claim, I understand what my influences were. Now, let's ask a question. Did I like them? Did I learn a way of being that I wish to continue to be?
Well, and much of what we grew up with in that form, I mean, as far as a guy, I grew up watching Soupy Sales and the Three Stooges. So a lot of male aggressiveness was taught to me that way. And much of that was actually societal programming for us.
That's correct. That's correct. This is how you are a real man. This is what a real woman wants, right? I mean, I actually have friends who, when they got pregnant, stopped having relationships with their own mothers because their mothers thought it was appalling that their daughters wanted to go back to work.
Wow.
Right? Appalling.
Yeah.
You are abandoning your child to some random person in daycare. Really, you think instead of, wow, you are living your own life and doing what you need to do so that your child has an example of an empowered human being. But that's a projection of an older generation to a younger generation. I know women whose relationships with their mothers never repaired after that. One comment, one decision, right? So the point is, fine, the chakra system can help you have a vocabulary, an energetic vocabulary, so that you can talk about and experience what, Joseph Campbell years and years ago said, follow your bliss. And nobody really knew what that meant. Like, follow your bliss. What is bliss, right? And what he means is the concept in Hinduism of Ananda. And it is blissed out oneness with the universe. But I really did some thinking about that sentence. And here's what he means, actually, that how it plays out in the Western world. Follow what gives you energy and walk away from what drains your energy.
Yeah.
Oh, well, wait, that's a whole different assignment. Like, oh, what about that friend who you see for lunch once a week, who is really, really negative and who says nasty things about everyone in the restaurant, the waiter, the this, the that, and you go back to work and what you want to do is, crawl into a ball and have a nap. Well, hey, maybe that negative friend is not someone you should spend a lot of time with. Or if you have to spend a lot of time with that negative friend, learn to protect yourself. In fact, Carl, this is absolutely perfect for this time of year because a lot of people are spending a lot of time in much larger crowds of people, and it tends to wipe us all out. And it's because we don't know how to protect ourselves energetically. And as far as I'm concerned, what most of the spiritual teachers I've ever encountered have said about protecting you is wrong. And I'll be speaking truth to power straight up. Do not protect yourself in white light. Not now, not ever. You use white light when it's 9/11, when there's a Bengal tiger in front of you, when you're facing that guy with the Uzi, right? White light is too dramatic for most people to be able to handle. So what happens is it bounces back to you and it wipes you out because whatever you send out comes back to you. what you want to do to protect your energy in a crowd, always, always, always is, and I've taught this to doctors. I had a client when I was at this medical center who was an MD. She was a DO, actually, a doctor of osteopathy. So she laid her hands on people. Mm-hmm. And one day she walked past my office and she was gray. I said to her, "Whoa, what happened, doc?" She said, "Oh, I just had this client, this patient who was in a car accident, and I did an osteopathic treatment on him. And it just, I'm staggering." I said, "Did you protect yourself?" She said, "No." "How do you do that?" Well, her whole practice changed that day, because this is how you do it. Picture a barber pole, red, white, and blue swirl moving up. Now change that swirl, red, white, and blue, to a rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, rose, right? Still a swirl. Get into the barber pole. Make it big enough. Get in. Surround your energetic body as well as your physical body with a rainbow. By intention, what that will do is anyone you encounter is going to take from that rainbow and not yours.
Well, you and I had earlier, before we came on, talking about empaths, and boy, what you're saying there is really important, because many empaths just absorb other people's energy, and like your friend, turn gray. They didn't protect themselves, and that's so important, especially this time of year. And that even especially happens within family relationships. And I know I've said this on other shows. I love this quote from Ram Dass. He said, if you think you're spiritually enlightened, just spend a weekend with your family.
Yes, amen to that.
Yeah.
Woo!
So
true. So true. Actually, I had several clients the year of the presidential election, during which he who shall not be named was elected, say to me, "How am I going to go to Thanksgiving dinner with my parents? My parents, who I know as sure as hell voted for that person. And I'm against that." And I said, "Well, what you're going to do is you're not going to drink and you're not going to say anything, because your dinner is going to devolve rather quickly if you do." Right? Like, oh, and what happens is, in a gathering like that, things get a little more raucous as barriers come down with alcohol and things, and people say things they don't mean. Right?
Well, I really am going to want to talk about your new project in a moment, but I just do want to mention a couple things. You mentioned a couple things earlier that I really resonate with me. You were talking about integrity, and as we know, as everybody knows, the world doesn't resonate with integrity. There's not a lot of integrity out there, and my life has gotten to the point where I want to march in perfect resonance and alignment with universal integrity of the eternal universal laws. And I have found that it helps me to feel more peaceful and not take things so seriously. But and one other thing too, you said that God gave us dominion, and to me, would I be correct in comparing that to free will?
Free will is the activity of dominion. But Carl, most people don't live based on free will. We live based on free won't. My very own coinage, right?
I shouldn't laugh. But
you should laugh, though, because how many times have you had a conversation with a friend who was upset about something, and what they're saying to you is, "I just don't want so-and-so to feel this. I just don't want da-da-da to happen. I just don't want. Well, the universe doesn't really give a damn what you just don't want. In fact, you can't create what you don't want. But it's like people worrying, right? Which is like praying for the thing that you don't want. Whoa. Wait. So, okay, I understand what you don't want. I don't want her to be mad at me. Okay, fine. Then how do you create your behavior and your choices so that you get actually what you do want, which is peace and understanding between the two of you?
This is classic law of attraction. that which you think and dwell upon consistently, be it good or bad, more will be sent to you.
Right. Exactly. Which is why I say this to people all the time. Human beings don't not do things very well, right? Which is why you always replace something that you ask someone to stop with something to do, right? So whatever you do, Carl, don't think about the Statue of Liberty. How fast, right? Now, don't think about the Statue of Liberty in a tutu, right? You can just see her in the top of a jewelry box. Bing,
Right.
bing, 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 bing. Okay, wait. I could do that with anything. Green elephants, purple
Right.
giraffes,
Mhm.
pink hippopotami. I mean, and they're all showing up in your head like Noah's Ark, right?
Right.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. So if you really don't want to think about the Statue of Liberty, I need to give you an equally powerful do to countermand that don't. So instead of don't think about the Statue of Liberty, I'm going to say to you, look, think about Michelangelo's David. Oh, and there comes this beautiful image in your head. It's still sculpture, darlings, but you're not drawing to you what you don't want. Right? Which we do, which is classic law of attraction, which we do all the time.
Right.
Because we think about what we don't want. I had a seminary professor who used to say, what you think about, you bring about.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not what you think about randomly, like, oh, that guy doesn't look like Santa in the Macy's parade, right? It's, oh, I really hate it that crossing guard is rude to me every day. It really bugs me that, right? And the more emotional intensity you put behind, which is why whenever anybody says hate, I say, well, no hate, stop. There's enough hate in the world. I'm not adding to hate in this world. And I challenge you not to too. Don't you just hate that? Whoa, whoa, whoa. No, I do not. There are things I prefer to that. Like I have a vicious allergy to garlic. I don't hate garlic, but I sure make sure I don't eat it. Mm-hmm. Right? But it's not emotional hatred. Whoa, 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 whoa. Which is why I say you are an integrity. You are an integrity. I'm an integrity. The planet's an integrity. The ecosystem's an integrity. Every single thing we encounter has wholeness to itself, right? No cat ever wonders whether she's whole. Neither does a gladiola. Right? Mm-hmm. Why? So what is it about us that's like, oh, I'm broken? Wait a minute. Sure, you've had some experiences. They show that, I mean, I've had terrible tragedy in my life. The death of my father when I was 5, the death of my son when I was 30, my best friend dying in my arms. Believe me, I know about grief, and I am damn good at it. But that doesn't mean that my life has been bad or that I'm broken. It means I have some really, really good scars that if you're really nice, I'll show you later, right? But they're emotional scars. And as a result, right, because I lost a child the day he was born, for example, that's the biggest tragedy of my life, right? Like, oh God, this should not happen. What do you mean my kid died before me? Kids don't die before their parents. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's that experience that made me turn way past religion and go straight to God. And I was not raised in any religiosity at all, none. I had grandparents who were atheists. I had a father who was Jewish, whose parents disowned him because he married my mother. So religion was like not exactly at the forefront of everybody's thinking, right? Man, I lost a child. I went straight to headquarters. I said, excuse me? Wait a minute. This is not okay. So I need some answers. Oh, well, what happened was, of course, I missed every bit of dogma, every bit of religiosity. I had nothing to unlearn, right? I mean, so many times in the healing work that I have done with people for years and years and years, we come across religiosity, not spirituality, religiosity that has deeply hurt people by telling them that life is one way, and they then live and discover that life isn't that way.
I follow the same path. I grew up in a totally agnostic house, and no religious dogma shoved down my throat. So as I grew up, I had a blank slate, and it allowed me to form my own understanding of spirituality and source and universal laws and that type of thing. So I never realized it, but now I look back on it and I thank my parents for that.
Certainly. And you know what? There are some people who are totally comforted and glad of the structure of the religion in which they were raised and stay there and are happy. That, everybody has a different path. I say this to people all the time. I'm not in the business of conversion. I don't care if you believe that, what I believe. And I don't think that God cares what you believe. I think God cares that you have an idea that there is an order to reality, an implicate order to reality, and that you have a place in it. I once gave a sermon in a church called "You're Not That Special." And the point of it was, you're not the only person who God left out of the plan. You may feel that way, but I really don't think you're that special. I mean, I don't know, maybe you might be, but not likely. There's no one. The aardvark is not left out of the plan, right? If the aardvark is not left out of the plan, neither are you.
Yeah, right.
It's just fact, and everybody thought it was funny, right? You're not that special. But how many times do you hear, Carl, about people caught in spiritual belief systems where what they are actually doing is telling God that she's wrong? Right? I have a client whose mother died quite unexpectedly at the end of July. And she has been running a tape in her head because she was supposed to fly out to see her mother the next day. And her mom died the night before she got there. I should have been there. She wouldn't have died. It was one day. I only missed one day. And I finally had to say, honey, are you a woman of deep faith? Are you really telling God that she was wrong? Really? Like this is the one thing that's totally out of timing in the universe, because I'm pretty sure that Mars is still in the place where it needs to be. So I'm pretty sure that your mom made the choice she made for a really good reason, and maybe you shouldn't be in the business of telling God that she's wrong.
Well, I just want to remind everybody we were talking to the amazing Dr. Susan Corso, just some lovely, lovely dialogue and insight into life and things beyond that. Just also to the listeners and viewers, if you hear a cat meowing, my cat, Maya Diva, has decided to join the dialogue. So
excellent.
She's hanging around here saying her piece here. But let's dive in now to you told me about this new project and accompanying programming you have. What is it? And I know you're pretty excited about it.
I'm very excited about this. So there's a very long story that goes with this, but the short version is this. A psychic, when I was 25, told me that I was a color healer in Egypt. And I was totally skeptical. My eyes made a ding in the ceiling. Whoa. Anyway, I was telling this friend of mine I'd gone to dinner with. It was my 25th birthday, actually. And my friend said, well, okay, if you're a color healer, that's awesome. Let's go to the spiritual bookstore around the corner from where we were having dinner and see if there are any books on color. Right. So her name was Susan as well. So we went and stood in front of these shelves, and there were books on color, and 3 books fell on the floor in front of me. Fell. No one pushed them. And I said to Susan, she said, just pick up the books. Let's buy them. Okay. So we buy the books. We get on the subway to go home. And I'm reading about 50 pages into the first book. I looked up at her and I put the book down and I said to her, you know what? This is really weird, but I know this stuff. I know what colors do. Well, so from there, I fell into a world of the mysticism of color, right? And one of the things I discovered in that initial foray was the chakra system. Oh, I love the idea of a rainbow inside each one of us. You are a rainbow being. Is that the coolest thing or what? Why not? Rainbows are happy. Good enough. Well, my friend started sending her friends to me for healing. And I started being able to help people using color, having them visualize color. So I started to collect information on the chakras, not really understanding where it was going, or that I would eventually be the head of spiritual and energy medicine in a big medical center, or that I would end up using the chakras constantly in the healing work that I did with people for 40 years. So finally, it became really clear to me that 2 years ago, the Blessed Mother said to me, you write these chakra workbooks because people need to know their own chakra systems, and they don't. And that's what these workbooks are. First of all, they are only physical books on Amazon. Although if you are outside the print-on-demand jurisdiction of Amazon, you may get the books as PDFs on my website. But the point is to take you through a series of exercises of your past, present, and future so that you understand what's going on in your own chakra system. So there are 8 of them for the 8 major chakras. Okay, good. I finished the books. I don't even think about it. I start doing podcasts. And then I sort of fell into a folder in my computer and realized I had all this information about chakras. And the reason it's so interesting is because chakras can be taught through almost any lens. You can look at the chakras through colors, through numbers, through endocrine glands, through nerve plexuses in your body. You can look at the chakras through archangels. You can look at the chakras through the 7 holy sacraments of the Christian church. You can look at the chakras through yoga asanas. You can look at the chakras through 7 gland theory of Taoist medicine. So there's chakras everywhere, like all throughout civilizations. The Mayans had them, the Maori have them. I mean, it's whoa. So I realized that I had been collecting all this correspondence information, like, oh, you can think about them this way, or you can think about them that way, you can think about them this way. And people have asked me over and over, can they learn how to work with chakras with other people? And it comes from a really big heart place, Carl. It really does. And so I say to people, do I work with people's chakra systems? Yes. Can you? No. Yes. How's that for a clear answer? No, yes. So here's why no, and here's why yes. No is because if I have a broken leg and you ask me to do a scan of your body and tell you how you are energetically, I can do that, but I'm not likely to confuse us and say that you have a broken leg too, right? Because it's my broken leg. But energetically, as opposed to physically, it's hard to tell what the difference is. So you can't work with other people's chakra systems safely or honorably without knowing your own. You have to do your own chakra work so you don't make the mistake of projecting your own chakra imbalances or worries or learnings, right, on the other person. So you have to be able to separate energetically, which is almost impossible unless you understand your own chakra system, right? So, for example, a specific example, I was raised in a household surrounded by alcoholics. And after my dad died, my mother married 3 alcoholics in a row. So I know about alcoholism, right? As a result, my 3rd chakra has a kick-ass response to alcoholism. I know that, right? So if I'm reading somebody who's an alcoholic or who was an alcoholic, my 3rd chakra is going to go crazy. I shouldn't project that all over you, because in my 3rd chakra is where my 3-year-old lives that wants to scream at anybody who's an alcoholic, right? I have that 3-year-old. I know her. She's good. And she's really clear. get rid of that alcohol. Hey, you grew up around alcoholics and you feel the same way, believe me, right? Okay. But I can't afford to project that onto you if that's not going on for you. So knowing your own system is what allows you to work with other people. So I started to put together all these correspondences in a document to see, like, oh, what about this? What about that? You can look at them through herbs, through gemstones, through aromatherapy, through Bach flower remedies, through Australian flower remedies. I mean, unbelievable, through runes, through tarot, through astrology. I mean, it's like, wow, I had all these different sort of strange documents stuck in a folder called Chakras on my computer. So I started to compile them and just edit, copy, paste them into one document to see where that would take me. Well, then I realized I needed a spreadsheet. So long, complicated story made very short. I ended up with more than 350 pages of teaching on the chakras. Now, part of the reason that is so cool about this is I have no idea where a lot of the information came from. I've been collecting this information for 40 years, right? So I'm not going to publish this book. I'm going to make it available as a PDF for a donation on my Patreon page. And the reason I'm going to do that is this. I can't give credit where credit is due all the way through this because I don't even own the books that I first read about chakras in. And it was 40 years of amassing information. And if I had known that I was going to be writing sort of my PhD dissertation on the chakra system, I might have kept little index cards with, OPSID and all that on it, but I didn't. So the places where I can credit where I got stuff like from Cindy Dale or from Ambika Waters or from Anna Dia Judith, like very, very well-known chakra teachers, those are credited because I still have those books, right? But that's why I'm not publishing it as a book and quote unquote selling it. And the only reason there's a donation is because there needs to be an energetic exchange. But the donation is up to you. There's no minimum donation. And you will then be able to download these 350 pages and use them as you will. What I'm going to use them for, though, is a very specialized training program to teach people who are interested and curious. I'm going to start in January with a cohort of 6, and it's a 1-year program. It's 2 hours twice a month of teaching and 1 hour of private counseling for each person. It's $15,000 for the whole program. It can be paid over time or whatever. It works out to far less than it would cost you to go to therapy or most training programs. But it will be, by the end of it, you will know how to work with your own chakra system and other people's. So it will enhance your healing abilities, and from an expert on the chakra system itself, on energetic systems. So that's what I'm doing. I'm very excited about it. And I would invite anyone who is curious about it, please, particularly Carl, if your listeners, I offered that if anyone of a listener of a podcast like Carl's, and there have been many that I've done lately, so anyone who comes through one of those podcasts as a student gets $1,000 off. And I'm really, really excited about it because I think that the chakra system is actually one of the keys that is missing to creating civilization yet again, like to take us out of polarity and let us see that we're all energetic beings. That makes us all the same, right? You can't be alive and not have an energy system. It's not possible. You can't be alive and not have a divine spark. Does that make sense to you?
It does, and I'm excited about it too. This 350-page document is called Chakras Correspondence Compendium. 40 years of research and living by Dr. Susan Corso. Now, are you going to start that at the beginning of the new year?
I am. Ideally, by mid-January, I will have started. We will schedule the classes based on the schedules of the people, so I don't have specific dates yet. But what I'm hoping is that as the program grows, more and more people are able to do it. And eventually I'll be able to certify teachers. Because I really think we should know about the chakra system like we know about, toilet training and teeth brushing. I mean, it is appalling to me that very few of us know about energy, that we are not taught that a human energy system exists, and that essentially tuning into your human energy system and knowing yourself that well, what it means is that you can avoid being sick. Right? I mean, your bodies are the coolest things in the whole wide world, because bodies don't lie. And the reason they don't lie is because they can't. Right? Minds can lie because brains can lie because we override our own minds. We override our own hearts. We override our own spirits. But bodies, you can't override it. You can't tell yourself that your leg isn't broken. Sorry.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I was just reading yesterday in A Course in Miracles. There's a pamphlet on psychotherapy, and it says that all healing takes place at the level of the mind.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Now, that's a good question, though. So let us make a distinction here. You know where your brain is, right? It's between your ears. It's above your eyebrows and between your ears. That's where your actual brain lives. It's an organ, right? But where's your mind? Where do you keep it?
It's above the battleground.
Maybe, but more where I think it is I think it's your chakra system. I think your chakras are your mind.
I could see that.
They hold your karma, your memories, your dreams, your thoughts, what's happened to you, the history, like your past lives, your future life. I mean, your chakras hold everything. And I love this, right? The mind is brain science says that we have access to 10% of our brains, right? And that's about 60,000 thoughts a day. Okay, I can go there, no problem. But that means that 90% of the brain is not accessible to you. What is it doing? Well, let's just, and I'm no brain scientist, but let's just divide it up, right? So let's say 45% of your brain is making bone marrow, growing eyelashes, and having allergies, right? It's like busy. That's the subconscious brain and mind. And the reason you don't know about the subconscious mind is because it is subconscious. You can't know about what it's doing. Subconscious. Can't bring it into the 10%. You can't suddenly know how you're making bone marrow. Right? It just doesn't work that way. So, okay, you got 45 more percent. That's the 45 more percent that is your spirit, your heart, your mind, your intellect, right? Like, that 45% you can have access to through your chakra system. If you'll slow down, you'll pay attention, you'll listen. No mistake that phrase is pay attention. It costs you attention. If I am paying attention to my chakra system, I am not watching the Dallas Cowboys win a football game. Can't do this two at the same time. You can't. Right now, I can be driving a car and at a stoplight and paying attention to my chakra system quietly, right? Chakra work. The thing about chakra work that's so cool is when you actually get into it, you can make permanent changes and they stick because you're working at a core level in your being, right? You're working at the generator part of every bit of you. Right? So if you know that you constantly default to having a sore throat, right? I had a client like this, sore throat all the time. It was her go-to response to everything. Sore throat, swollen glands, thyroid problems, this and this. I'm like, whoa. I said, what's going on? Like, what? How is it that your throat is constantly saying, ow. Well, it didn't take long to figure out, like 3.5 seconds practically, that she was in a marriage where she couldn't speak her truth.
Mm.
So she was shut down vocally all the time. Of course, her throat was sore. Hell yes. That'd make your throat sore, right? So what happened? She started to speak the truth. She got divorced and she never had another throat problem. Oh,
Yeah.
Well, your body gives you that information about your marriage long before your conscious 10% is aware of it, which is why it's worth it to tune in. I tune into my chakras morning and night so that there's very little unfinished business then. If something's unfinished, I go back and clean it up the next day. You know what? That felt icky when I said that to you. I'm really sorry. Oh, okay. You know, my husband was teaching a class on NaNoWriMo yesterday, and I was doing something on my computer in the evening, and I, because of what I was doing, kicked them off Zoom. Right?
Mm.
I didn't mean to do it. I didn't know that what I was doing was going to kick them off Zoom, but man, it did. So I said, tell the crew I apologize. It's my fault, not yours, that Zoom kicked out on you. I just asked the broadband to do too much, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, we ask our energy systems to do too much all the time.
Oh, that's a great comparison. Yeah. So, well, Susan, I try to keep the show around an hour, and yet this is our second conversation on World Awakenings. And once again, just beautiful conversation. You have so much beautiful knowledge to share. And so you got another 40 years to come up with a sequel to this new project. So
no problem. I'll be glad to. I'm working on it all the time because the chakra information is fascinating.
And people can just go to susancorso.com and find out about this.
No, the place they need to go is to my spirituality work website. susancorso.com is where all my metaphysical fiction lives. But the spirituality work is at IAmpersand.org. That's the letter I, and then AMPERSAND.org. The notion is that ampersand living is living that includes a world that works for everybody. And the ampersand is, of course, that wonderful and symbol, right? Mm-hmm. So in the Emporium is where you'll find the workbooks. You'll find a contact sheet if you need to make an inquiry to me, and I'll have a preliminary conversation with you about the inaugural chakra cohort, which I'm so thrilled about. And may I offer once again a gift to your listeners, which is if they will go to chakras.susancorso.com, there is a free gift. And I mean a free gift. You don't have to put your name on a mailing list, although you can, right? But I'm not going to do a bait and switch like that. That makes me mad when people do it to me. So chakras.susancorso.com is where you will find what I call the less mores, which are a behavior to do less for each chakra and a behavior to do more for each chakra, like we were talking about replacing the Statue of Liberty with the Statue of David. Right? So the less more for the first chakra is complain less, and the more is thank more. So if you suddenly notice that you're hearing complaints everywhere, or you're complaining in your head, oh, and this and this and this and this, right? You're like, meh, meh, meh. Okay, whoa, go to gratitude. Stop the complaining. How you do that is you go to gratitude, right? Well, there's one for each chakra. So your point is that you can start your chakra work right now, this second, which is why I developed the less mores, because I was doing podcasts and people were saying, wait, how do I start? How do I start now? I don't want to wait for your workbook to arrive. Okay. Go to chakras.susancorso.com. You will find the beginning of the chakra work right there.
I love that. I love that term, less mores. Having been a professional radio DJ for 2+ decades, I love it. That's my next radio name. Hi, I'm Les Mores.
I love that.
So anyway, Susan, you're just so awesome. I'm so happy to have you back on the show.
Thank you so much.
And keep doing your beautiful work that you do. I don't know what else I could say. I mean, thank you. It's just wonderful to have you on.
My sincere pleasure. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. And when you need somebody back who's willing to fly around the metaphysical world with you, you just call me and let me know.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified Law of Attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.